When Mike Mentzer spoke about bodybuilding, it wasn't just from a place of experience. It was from a place of deep intellectual conviction. He wasn't content with vague ideas or motivational fluff. He wanted bodybuilding to be understood as a science, a precise, rational, and testable discipline. In an early seminar, Mike Mentzer tore apart the contradictions of popular bodybuilding advice and laid out the foundation of his high-intensity training philosophy, grounded in the unyielding principles of logic and exercise physiology.
While I know nutrition is important in building a great physique, remember again that muscular growth must be stimulated first before good nutrition becomes a factor.
That simple statement encapsulates a powerful truth often overlooked in the sea of diet fads and supplement hype. You cannot feed muscle into existence. You must first stimulate it. The pseudoscience of mainstream bodybuilding. For decades, bodybuilding magazines marketed the discipline as a science, only to undermine their own premise in the very next breath.
One magazine even calls itself a journal devoted to the science of bodybuilding, while another goes on to claim to do research. Yet these same magazines tell us that because we are all unique, we each require different training routines. What a massive contradiction.
Mentzer saw this for what it was, a form of intellectual laziness cloaked in marketing.
These same people who are trying to sell us the science of bodybuilding on the one hand are also telling us that bodybuilding is anything but exact, that there are no universal truths or principles, and each and every one of us has to be his own scientific agent and discover what works for us.
He didn't buy it, and neither should you. Because, as he argues, true science is not a matter of guesswork.
Bodybuilding cannot exist as a science under those conditions, as science is a very exacting discipline.
Mentzer maintained that while we are all different in terms of personality, preferences, and even genetics, the fundamental biochemical processes that lead to muscular growth are the same in all of us.
The biochemical changes that result in muscular growth in Mike Mentzer are the same for all of those of you listening to this seminar.
The true driver of growth, intensity. Central to Mentzer's philosophy is one concept above all: intensity of effort.
There is no mystery at all surrounding the requirements of muscle growth. The single most important factor influencing the rate of muscular growth, as I hope we all know by now, is intensity of effort.
Not volume, not frequency, not how long you're in the gym, but how hard you train in the brief time you were there.
Think about it this way. If you want your muscles to get progressively larger and stronger, something about your workouts must progressively alter.
Only two variables can change in a workout: intensity and duration. But if you try to increase duration indefinitely, you quickly run into the body's limited capacity to recover. As Mentzer puts it,
and if duration had to progressively increase to stimulate progressive size and strength increases, then by the time we reach the upper limits of our potential, we might be training all day long. That's impossible, obviously, as the body only has a limited capacity to cope with such prolonged stress.
Recovery, the missing link. One of the biggest mistakes Mentzer saw in bodybuilding culture was a failure to understand recovery, not just as a concept, but as a biological necessity.
Once growth has been stimulated, it must be allowed to take place.
Growth cannot happen unless the body first recovers from the stress imposed on it. Mentzer explains.
Bear in mind, the first thing the body must do after a workout is recover what was used up during the workout. Obviously, when you're done training, something about your body is different. Something has taken place. Things have been used up. Energy has been used up, nutrients, chemical reserve, and so forth. And the first thing your body has to do after that workout is not grow, but recover and restore what was used up.
Only after that recovery process can growth occur, if it was stimulated in the first place.
Only once it has recovered will it grow, assuming then again that growth has been stimulated first.
The perfect routine: brief, intense, infrequent. Given these principles, what does the perfect workout routine look like?
A perfect routine then would, number one, induce maximum possible growth stimulation, and number two, use up a minimum of the body's reserve of resources so that growth can take place.
This is where high-intensity training comes in, as Mentzer explains.
A high-intensity program fulfills these two requirements of a perfect routine. We know with absolute certainty that high intensity of effort is a requirement for building size and strength. And since a high-intensity routine must be brief, it will deplete a minimum of the body's reserves.
So, train harder but shorter. Get in, stimulate growth, and get out.
The less time you spend engaged in training, the less reserves or resources you use up.
The universal law of intensity. You might be tempted to think, but maybe I need more volume. Maybe I'm different. Mentzer was ready for that argument.
While it is true that each of us are unique as personalities, it is also true that we are physiologically alike, making our training requirements practically identical.
Some people may grow faster due to genetics or age, but the principle remains the same.
The important point to remember here is that you will grow progressively larger and stronger muscles only when you train with increasing levels of intensity. This is universal and applies to all human beings.
Purposeful, intelligent training. Ultimately, Mentzer believed that training should not be emotional or instinctual. It should be purposeful.
Intense training is purposeful behavior aimed at the goal of increasing muscular size and strength. In order to train as hard as possible, you must retain a clear image of your purpose.
And that purpose must be grounded in reason, not trends, not tradition, not what the guy next to you is doing.
Once your goal is sharply but realistically defined, all that remains is carrying out your plan.
Conclusion: Mentzer's legacy. Mike Mentzer challenged the dogma of the fitness world and paid a price for it, but his ideas remain as relevant now as ever. In an industry that still thrives on confusion and contradiction, Mentzer offered something rare: clarity. He wanted you to train less but harder, to think more, not less, and to understand that real progress begins where most routines end, at the point of maximum effort.